my name is Ffion and I work for a charity called UKHarvest, and I'm their community education and outreach coordinator, and also an associate nutritionist with the Association for Nutrition. So I've been working within public health for the past 5, nearly 6 years. So a little bit of an introduction to who UKHarvest are. Have either of you heard of UKHarvest before? Put your hand up if you have. No. Okay, so this is a proper introduction. So UKHarvest, we operate across the south of England, and our headquarters is based in Donington in Chichester. And we work all the way up to London as well. Now, we are a not-for-profit food rescue and education charity. So one side of the charity, we rescue food that would otherwise be going to waste. So from shops, from supermarkets, and we deliver it free of charge to charities and organisations in need. So this varies from food banks to shelters, to youth clubs, a really wide variety, and this is all for free. And the other side of the charity is our education side. So we are educating people to avoid food waste and to also cook and eat healthy, balanced meals, whilst also addressing food poverty. So my role is very much working on the education side of the charity, hence today's educational PowerPoint and presentation. Now, a little bit about our education side of the charity, just to put this into context. We educate and empower people of all ages, from tiny little children all the way up to the elderly, to cook healthy, balanced meals. And we do this usually pre-COVID through our 6-week courses, our 2-hour events, and our pop-up stores and local community events. So we really aim to get people cooking and trying food that they don't usually, but mainly educating on how easy it is. Even with little to no cookery skills, you can work towards creating these healthy, balanced meals, and we always try and use surplus food as well. Now, during COVID, we've really turned to working online, which is why it was so great to be invited to be a part of Getting Online Week, because it's been quite new for us. It's been challenging, but also rewarding in ways as well, as what we do is very much meeting with people, cooking together, chopping, eating together. So it is really, has been a challenge to change that into an online setting. But how we've done that is through various ways, one being our food knowledge series, which is similar to our session today. Each month we hold a Zoom on different topics, varying from eating seasonal, today's session, eating healthy for less, food waste, and more. We've also launched our Hairy Harvesters Cook Along series, which has created a YouTube channel of weekly cook along videos for people to give them confidence to try new recipes, whilst also giving them a visual, which is obviously really hard to do without actually being with people. The third is our Nourish Ed community, which is a weekly food, nutrition and health article, which I send each week. And our final new project is our one-to-one cookery skills program. So providing people with cookery skills over the phone or via Zoom by holding these very, very simple cook-along videos. Now, I've quickly run through these. There's so much more to say about these, but if you are part of a group or know of a group that might be interested in any of these services in Ada and Worthing, these are all free as we work closely with the Ada and Worthing Wellbeing team. So it's a very brief whistle-stop tour of what we do at UKHarvest, but we'll move on to talk about today's session.
Can I just ask, does that include schools, or do you not go into schools?
It does include schools, yes. Okay. We haven't done much engagement with schools yet. We're quite a new service, and most of it has been during COVID. So engaging with schools has been quite challenging, but that is something we really, really want to do. To get our foot in the door of a few schools would be amazing. So if you are a useful person to speak to about that, I'd love to catch up.
Well, only for one school, but I think at the moment schools aren't letting visitors in anyway. But I was just curious for the future.
Yes, no, schools, nurseries, everywhere, 100%. Any sort of community venue where people gather is who we work with. Fabulous. So by the end of today's session, we will have explored a lot around eating healthy for less. We'll hopefully understand some of the barriers that we might face when coming to eat healthily on a budget. And we will also explore how we can shop and prepare food in a healthy and budget-friendly way. So my question to you, first of all, what does healthy eating mean to you? What pops into your head when I say healthy eating? Martin, do you have an idea?
I would say eating your 5 a day, your fruit and veg.
Brilliant.
Low fat, low sugar, low salt.
Yeah, you've summed it up very well there. You have summed up the Eat Well Guide, which is brilliant. Rachel, what springs into your mind when you think of healthy eating?
I think it's balance, isn't it? You know, and across the food groups, I suppose, and maybe making replacements or changes that are longer term rather than quick fixes.
Yeah, sustainability, 100%. Now, you have come up with most of the things on there. These are just a few that when I've asked people, they come up with straight away, which you've all summarised. One of the ones which I love, which somebody said to me, is feel good, because eating healthy can sometimes make people think of negative connotations, but actually eating healthy should make you feel good and feel empowered as well. So the reason I'm asking you about healthy eating tips is because how can we learn to kind of cook and shop in a more budget-friendly way when we don't really know what we're trying to achieve? So I'll go into this one. How I summarize my healthy eating tips are as 8 no-nonsense healthy eating tips. Actually, there's not 8 there, is there? There's 7. 7 no-nonsense healthy eating tips. And these are very much, as you said, it's about the balance across the different food groups. We're not going to focus on these too much today, because we're going to look at ways in which we can achieve these, but we're just going to quickly go around the circle and cover these. So number 1 is to base your meals around starchy carbohydrates. So these are our breads, our rice, our pasta, and sometimes pulses. And these are our body's main source of energy. So they make us feel fuller for longer throughout the day. Without these, we can feel really low. And actually, this is why low carbohydrates or no carbohydrate diets can actually be not very good for our health. Our second is to consume plenty of high fibre plant-based foods. So Martin's suggestion of 5 a day, that's a massive tick. If you can get more, even better. And these also include things like beans as well, because they are classed as a very high fibre food. Our third is include high protein foods with every meal. So these are our meats and our fish, but also our lentils and our nuts and seeds, as they are very high in fibre as a plant-based source. These make us feel fuller for longer, protein foods, so it is important to have one of these every meal. Number 4, consume mainly unsaturated fats. Martin did touch on this as well, so these are our vegetable fats, so our olive oils, our rapeseed oil, and other vegetable oils such as sunflower oil. Our next point is to consume at least 2 portions of fish a week, one which should be oily. And this is for our omega-3. Now, omega-3 is really important for our brain and actually eye development as well, which some people don't think of. So including one of an oily fish a week is really important. So think mackerel, sardines, fresh tuna. Unfortunately, tin doesn't count. And there's really good ways of disguising those in sauce, which we might talk about later. And next is consume small amounts of foods high in fat, salt and sugar. I think we know this, but we sometimes don't want to follow this because it's usually the more challenging one to find a balance of.
A different one.
Yes, sorry, I thought somebody asked a question then. But no, these are the foods which we should just consume in small amounts every now and then. However, this is why I put the point of beforehand, is to enjoy your food and find the balance, because these foods do make up part of a healthy diet, just in a certain amount. Now, my final one is hydration is key. People always often forget that water is actually a nutrient, and we should have around 6 to 8 glasses a day. This is why I always have a glass with me, or always carry a bottle with you. Now, thank you for listening to that very quick whistle-stop tour of my nutrition tips. This is really going to be really helpful in when we move on to look about how we can achieve these in a budget-friendly way. But it isn't always that simple. Now, you all sound very already clued up on these nutrition tips, but things get in the way when we come to actually eat healthy, balanced meals and food. Would anybody like to share what are some of your barriers when you come to shopping and cooking in a healthy way?
Family schedule, kind of ending up grabbing something rather than planning ahead.
Yes, so it's usually time, isn't it, as well? We've got a club on, then we're home late and we need something quick. So yeah, time is a huge one with the schedule.
My troublesome sweet tooth.
Yes, our tendencies to move towards those sadly high fat, salt and sugar snacks are a thing. So it's about managing those, isn't it? But I always say never cut those out. They are part of a healthy diet, just finding that balance. Does anybody have any other things that get in the way of them making and buying healthy, balanced food and meals? No? Well, there are many, and I've just summarised a few here. Rachel rightly said time, which if a busy schedule, sometimes lack of motivation can come into that as well. Sometimes it's not just the motivation, it's sometimes people don't have the ability to create those healthy balanced meals, whether that's facilities or knowledge, which is why we're here, to help spread knowledge. But no, it's not always simple. And actually today's session is really to try and break down some of these barriers, but really focusing on the cost aspect of eating healthy in a budget friendly way. So we are going to cover these 8 ways in which we might shop healthy in a more budget friendly way. Now, some of these you might find you're already doing, which is brilliant. And some of them you might do every now and then, or you might not be doing any of them at all, in which case, bear these in mind. The presentation is being recorded and will be shared with you as well. So don't worry about making notes. But if there are any questions throughout me chatting away in this section, note them down and we'll have a time for a chat at the end as well. So my first healthy eating tip on a budget is to plan meals and make a shopping list. Now, this seems really simple, and you will have probably all come across this at some point. Now, actually putting aside 15 minutes or half an hour each week will save you time as well as money. How many times have we been to the supermarket without a list and we've ended up putting in everything that you didn't go for, or forgetting the things that you did want? It is very common, and actually research has shown that without taking a list, you end up spending a lot more, and a lot more food waste is also incurred as well, because you buy foods that you don't necessarily eat or need. Now, how do we plan and make a shopping list? If you're part of a family, get everyone involved within reason. You might have to guide some younger ones or older ones who are after those healthy or unhealthy snacks, but get everyone involved and get them to choose a healthy meal together, and plan it in according to weekly schedules. So Rachel said your busy schedule can sometimes get in the way of that, and it's about choosing those really easy healthy meals on those days which you might not have a lot of time. My second healthy eating tip is to stock up on staples. This way, you will always have something healthy, balanced, and nutritious to eat. And staples, which I'm talking about, are generally really, really cheap. Now, when I say staples, they come in a variety of forms. So these might be dried beans, lentils, tinned beans and lentils as well, which can form the base of a meal. But if we're talking about fruits and vegetables as well, instead of buying fresh, which are often more expensive, we can buy tinned and frozen. Now, there is a common misconception that frozen or tinned aren't as good for us. They aren't as nutritious. They've been through processing. They can't be as good. But actually, this is the opposite. If we think of fresh food, a lot of it has traveled many miles, many hours, across seas, by plane, by cargo ship, and actually the nutrients deplete. So we get less vitamin C and other nutrients we find in fresh. Whereas with our tinned and our frozen, they are often processed at source. So those peas are picked and podded, and they are frozen straight away, locking in those nutrients. So having those as a staple in your freezer are hugely helpful when trying to make, especially those quick meals, but being healthy. Now, this is my shopping list staple sheet I've put together, which I've had feedback on, which people find really useful. Of course, you wouldn't get anything on this list, but you might pick some which are useful to you. I'm going to share these at the end of the session, so you'll get that in full A4 version instead of that little one there. My third tip is to make the most of your freezer. Now, one thing you can do if you do have a freezer is before you go shopping, make sure you've got some space. Now, I am a massive fan of that reduced section in the supermarket. You kind of go past and you have a peek, and if there's lots there, you kind of go, oh yes, and I always rummage through. Now, within the reduced section, you can find a lot of meat and fish, which are usually more expensive. Well, actually, not usually. They're always more expensive than a plant-based protein source, such as beans or lentils. But if we were buying them reduced, we can put them in the freezer and freeze up to 3 months or more. And it's actually a great way of saving money whilst also having a variety of different protein sources as well. My next tip is to buy value and supermarket own brands. Now, often foods, as I studied with quite a few people that ended up working in food manufacture on production lines, doing their quality and production, I actually have inside knowledge to say that often a lot of the time, lines are run the same, and products are not that different when it comes to own brand. Now, the best way of you checking if you would like to switch to a supermarket own brand is just try it out. Do a little taste test with your family or your friends, and it's a really, really, really easy way of saving money, because often things like tomatoes might be 3 times the price if you're buying a branded compared to an own brand supermarket. Now, I've put on here taste matters too, because Hellmann's for me cannot be beaten. So there are some ways in which you won't be able to change, but a lot will be very similar, but for a much lesser cost. My fifth tip is to buy in season. Now, if you are lucky enough to have a local farm shop or a local store which readily stocks local seasonal produce, you'll find that the produce is usually cheaper. And also, as well as being cheaper, it's also highly nutritious. It's travelled less time and been stored for less time. So you are getting really the freshest product it will be. One thing you can do if you are only able to shop in a supermarket is to check the label for the country of origin. It will usually say UK Lancs for Lancashire. I always find our green beans are from. And that's a really good way of finding a cheaper fruits and vegetables specifically. my sixth tip, sorry, is to include more plant-based meals. Now, I'm not saying go vegan, but plant-based foods are a lot cheaper than meat or fish, as we've already discussed. Now, as well as being cheaper, they're also sometimes better for us. They are lower in fat and higher in fibre, meaning they are a really good alternative. One thing we can do is try and go meat-free for one day of the week. There is a campaign to go meat-free Mondays. They usually do this within schools, but I think this is a really good way of, if you are particularly somebody who eats meat every day, just making that change to one day will make a huge difference, not just to your pocket, but to your health and also the environment as well, as farming can be really damaging on our environment. And my penultimate tip is to minimize reliance on pre-packaged food items. So when I say pre-packaged food items, we're talking about the grated cheese, the sliced cheese, the prepared fruits. So when we get mango already chopped and pineapple already into squares, they are great for saving time, but not for saving money. And actually making a small change to buying whole fruits is a really, really good way of saving money. And my final tip is to look at the price of food and comparing them. So we would compare two food products by looking at the price per 100 grams or a price per kilogram. And you can see this is shown on the little tag below where that food product is on the shelf. For example, here we've got Morrison's egg tagliatelle, and it's £2 per kilogram. Now next door, there might be another one, and it's actually £1.50 per kilogram. And if you are looking for those money saving tips, that's a really good habit to get into. I find, because I was shown this at university, and it was a bit of a task to do this as you went shopping. It stays with you, and actually it's a habit which is a really good way of saving those pennies. So we've covered 8 top tips there, and these are just 8, and I'm sure there are many, many more out there you've already got kind of sprung up to mind. Would anybody like to either add on to the ones we've got here and elaborate, or what are your low cost healthy eating tips? Would anybody like to share theirs?
Maybe manage your portion size?
Yes, 100%. Portion sizes are a bit of a minefield sometimes, especially if we've got little ones and grown adults. But actually, you're right. If we're cooking the right portions, we're less likely to then cook too much and then it end up in the bin, which can waste money. But yeah, right, buying the right portion size is a really good one. Anybody else? Martin, yes.
Yeah, if I do a chili con carne, make it scratch, I normally make twice as much and then freeze half of it for use later on in the week or following week.
Yeah, that is such a good way, because the best thing is when you've done that and you've got in from a long day and you think, oh, I really can't be bothered to cook, I'm just going to get a ready meal. And we know often ready meals are not the most nutritious, but if you've got your already ready-made homemade chili, then you're sorted. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's a really, really good way. Does anybody else have any ideas? No.
I try and think about dinner early on in the day, like in the morning. So if I need to get something out of the freezer, then that's out, and then you don't want to waste it and use it. And that kind of avoids that last minute hunger. You know, go for the bad option.
Yeah, I think that point about hunger, it's never go shopping when hungry because it usually ends badly. You'll end up with a load of stuff you don't even want, and you'll have spent twice as much as you wanted to as well. So no, not shopping when hungry is a really good one. And yeah, being prepared. Like most things in life, being prepared is really one of the best tips, and it does come into food as well. So yeah, getting out that fish pie mix, for example, in the morning, ready to just whip up in the evening, or even just some chicken breasts to put in the oven. You're right, it is they are good ways in saving time and also money. Now, thank you so much for listening to those and contributing. I wanted, before we finish, to share one of our Hairy Harvesters cook-along videos. Now, I briefly mentioned these at the beginning of the session. These were born out of COVID, and they were born out of us really wanting to encourage people to still cook at home, whilst having more time as well. Actually, really interestingly, research has shown that more people are focused on cooking and making food from scratch now if they have the ability to, which is one good thing. I think that's come from COVID. I'm just going to show you a very short snippet of this this particular film, which is our garlic pizza bread and pizza. Now, this is made from no yeast dough, and it's simply a yogurt, flour, and bicarbonate of soda dough. So it's kind of minimizing that effort of making bread, which personally, it takes a lot of time, and it's not what people have a lot of time for. So I'm just going to play a short snippet of this, just to give you an idea of what's out there. If you would like to use these, please head to our YouTube channel, or if you have any groups that might benefit from these, I'd also really like to speak with you and connect with you, as we've got our other services available as well. So I'm just going to press play here.
What are we making today?
So today, well, Joe, we're going to do homemade pizzas, and we're going to do garlic and herb pizza dough, pizza bread type thing as well. Great to do with the kids, really easy, really simple. 300 grams self-raising flour, 300 ml of natural yogurt, and then a teaspoon and a little squidge of bicarb. That's all we're going to be putting in our dough. Okay, so I've taken my wedding ring off, I've washed my hands, we're ready to go. First things first, guys. Turn your oven on, needs to be set to 200 degrees, and you need your baking trays in so that when we do the dough, it doesn't all stick to the bottom of your tray. Okay. Big mixing bowl, Roger.
Lovely.
Really easy. Flour, 300 grams, self-raising, don't forget. A teaspoon and a bit of baking powder or bicarb.
Oh, gone a bit off in here. Oh dear. Right, I'm not sure what's happened here. I'm just going to end the share, stop share. I just played you a really short snippet of that, as they're usually about range between 8 and 10 minutes long, but they are available for anyone and everyone to use. So I just wanted to finish by saying thank you so much for being perfect participants and sharing some really amazing knowledge and ideas. And if, for example, you live or work in Ada and Worthing and are interested in any of UKHarvest services, so from our one-to-one cookery skills services right up to our weekly newsletter, I'd love to speak to you and get involved. We're really trying to spread our knowledge and spread our work as far as we can, as we're a relatively new service in the area. So I'm going to share those few things in the Zoom chat box, which I've told you can do after the session, which is quite cool. I'm new to this. But if there's nothing else, does anybody have any questions about the session or anything about UKHarvest services they would like to ask?
No, but I think you put the things in the chat box now. I think he just probably meant at the end of your presentation, because once the Zoom finishes, we can't access the chat.
Okay, I will try and do that. It was what I might do actually is Mark said he might be able to email you all because he's got your.
Yeah, I can put them on the meetup page. That's what we'll do with them, and I can probably email them out from there as well. I think we can send an email to participants from there.
That'll be useful because one of them is a PDF as well.
Okay.
So yeah, thank you, Mark. That'd be really helpful.
That's really good. Thank you very much. And I think there's probably a lot of scope for you to work with some of the scouting groups like Cubs and Scouts, because they have badges on, like healthy eating.
Amazing.
You could maybe do, a lot of them are meeting, so I know my kids they're meeting on Zoom for their meetings a lot at the moment, so you could do one of those like videos they can cook along with you or something. You might be able to tie in with that.
Would you be able to introduce me to somebody specifically in the Scouts group? That's some groups we've been trying to find a connection, because they're not sometimes easiest to get a foot in the door, but as soon as we're in with one, that would be amazing. If you could
that's fine.
If you can connect, that would be amazing. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions or would like to share anything? No? Brilliant.
Are you, sorry, one more thing. Are you a charity? You're a registered?
We are a charity, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So how do you just rely on donations and funding, or?
So yeah, we get donations. For example, our services in Ada and Worthing, we work with Ada and Worthing Wellbeing. We're one of the commissioned services. But yes, we do rely a lot of funding and donations.
Okay.
But we are really trying to broaden and grow our education side of the charity, which is things like these, our cookery sessions and our one-to-one cookery skills service, because primarily UKHarvest started as the collection and delivery service, which there are quite a lot of in the UK, but we think it's really important that we don't just rescue food and deliver it. It's about what we do with that food and how we can actually reduce waste as well. So yeah, if you have any, even if we leave this chat now and you have a bright idea about a group that might benefit from any of our services, I would love to be put in contact with you. So I will also get Mark to share my email with the stuff he sends around as well. Brilliant.
That's great. Thanks very much, Ffion.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Have a good day.